Okay, so we're going to work on factoring quadratic expressions some more. So this is day 2 of our practice. So we're given 3x squared minus 17x plus 10. Okay, I have my a term, my b term, and my c term. And now that I've identified those three terms, I also need to look and see if there's a greatest common factor, a GCF. For this particular expression, there is not a GCF. So, nope, not one there. There's nothing I can divide 3, 17, and 10 by and end up with a whole number. My next step is going to be to fill in my area model or the box method, either one. So my A term is going to go in that top left-hand box, and my C term, which is a positive 10, is going to go in that bottom right-hand box. To fill in the top of my X, I need to multiply my A times my C, and that's going to be a positive 30x squared. And my B term, I need to fill in the bottom of my X, which is a negative 17x. Now that I have my X puzzle filled out, I need to work on my factors for a positive 30 that add together to give me a negative 17. Well, 1 times 30, but I have a negative number and a positive product, so those are both going to be negative. If I add those together, I'm going to get a negative 31. That is not the correct answer. It's not what I'm looking for, so I'm going to move on to my next factored pair, which would be negative 2 and negative 15. Well, if I add those together, negative 2 and negative 15, I'm going to get negative 17, and that's exactly what I'm looking for. So I know that my factors are going to be negative 2x and negative 15x, and I can fill those in to the other parts of my area model. So negative 2x and negative 15x. Okay, if you want to, you can still fill it in for your x as well. Okay, now that I've filled in the area model, now I need to pull out the common factors. So on this left side here, I have 3x squared minus 2x. I can factor out of both terms an x. Going to my bottom row, I have a negative 15x and a positive 10. So I can factor out a negative, because this is negative, I'm going to factor out a negative 5. Okay. Now I'm going to go to my columns. I have a 3x squared and a negative 15x. So I can factor out a 3 because both 3 and 15 are divisible by 3. And I can factor out an x because I have an x squared and an x. Then I'm going to go to my next column where I have a negative 2x and a positive 10. And because of this negative, I'm going to factor out a negative number up here as well. So I'm going to factor out a negative 2 because both negative 2x and a positive 10 can factor out a negative 2. Now, before I move on, I want to double check my area model. Does 3x times x equal 3x squared? Yes. Does 3x times negative 5 equal a negative 15x? Yes. X times negative 2. Yep, that's a negative 2x. Negative 5 times negative 2, that gives me a positive 10. All right, so those are the correct factors. So now I'm going to list them at the bottom. I have 3x minus 2, and then I have x minus 5. And that is the answer to question 1 on the factor expressions practice day 2. We're going to do 2 and 3 in this video. I want you to pause the video before you move on and try it on your own. And then if you can't solve it, or if you want to check your work, play the video and check to make sure that your answer is correct. All right, now we're looking at 6x squared minus 7x plus 2. I have my a term, which is 6x squared. I have my b term, which is negative 7x. And I have my c term, which is a positive 2. I'm going to fill in that area model. Okay, so I have 6x squared in the top left and a positive 2 in the bottom right. I can also fill in, do my a times my c term. Well, 6x squared multiplied by a positive 2 is going to give me a positive 12x squared. Then in the bottom of my x, I have my b term, which is a negative 7x. So now I need to find the factors of a positive 12 that add together and give me a negative 7. Well, I have, again, like I did before in question 1, I have a positive product, but a negative sum. So that means both numbers are going to be negative when I'm looking at my factors. So negative 1 and negative 12. If I add those together, I'm going to get a negative 13. That is not the answer I'm looking for. Then I have negative 2 and a negative 6. If I add those two numbers together, I'm going to get a negative 8. That is also not the number I'm looking for, negative 7. Then I have negative 3 and negative 4. If I add those two numbers together, I'm going to get a negative 7. Well, those are the factors that I'm looking for because they add together to give me a negative 7 and multiply together to give me a positive 12. So I can fill in my box now, which is a negative 3x and a negative 4x. Okay, now I'm going to start working on my factors. We forgot to look for a GCF, but it did not have a GCF in this one, again, okay? Just a side note. So 6x squared and a minus 3x. The only thing I can factor out is going to be a 3, right? I can divide 6 and 3 by 3 and an x. Now I'm going to go to my bottom row, negative 4x plus 2. Well, because of this negative, that means that this, I'm going to bring that out here and I'm going to have a negative number. And it's going to be 2. Because 2 can divide into 4 and 2 divides into 2. So my first factored pair is going to be 3x minus 2. Next, I have my 6x squared and my negative 4x. Well, I can factor out a 2x, right? Because 6 is divisible by 2, and negative 4 is divisible by 2, and they both have an x term, so I factor out an x. Then I have negative 3x and a positive 2. I can't factor out a 3 or a 2. I do have a negative number on the outside, so I need to factor that out. So there's my negative sign, and the only thing I can factor out is a 1. So my other factor for this trinomial or quadratic expression is 2x minus 1. Now I can double check my work before I move on to question 3. Does 3x times 2x give me 6x squared? Yes. Does 3x multiplied by negative 1 give me a negative 3x? Yes. Does negative 2 times 2x give me a negative 4x? Yes. Does negative 2 times negative 1 give me a positive 2? Yes. That means that I found the correct factors for this quadratic expression. All right, one more to go for this video, and that's going to be number 3. All right, we have 15x squared, negative 26x, and negative 11. Is there a greatest common factor, or GCF, for this expression? Well, this number right here, this positive 11, is going to tell me automatically no, because 11 is a prime number. It's only divisible by 1 and 11, so that means there is not a number I can factor out. So let's move forward. We've got our A. We're going to fill in here. We have our B, which we'll fill in down here, and our C, which we're going to fill in there and there in our area model. Okay, so 15x squared, negative 26x, and a positive 11. I can fill in my negative 26x into the bottom of my x puzzle. And in the top left-hand corner, I'm going to use 15x squared. And in the bottom right-hand corner, I'm going to put my C term, which is a positive 11. Okay, now I need to multiply my A times my C term. So 15 multiplied by 11, and I get 165x squared. Okay, that's a pretty big number to be factoring. Let's see how long it takes us to find factors that are going to multiply together to give me a positive 165, but add together to give me a negative 26. Well, I know it's not going to be 165 and 1, so let's start by dividing by 5. So negative 5 and 33 are factors of 165. If I add those two numbers together, I'm going to get a negative 38. Well, negative 38 is not the number that I'm looking for. So now I'm going to check 165. I can divide by 3. Well, that's not going to help me either. 165, maybe let's divide by 15. So my factors of 165, I would have negative 11 and negative 15. Okay, those are two factors of 165. If you multiply 11 by 15, you're going to get 165. Well, if I add those together, negative 11 plus negative 15, I'm going to get negative 26. So there are my factors that will add together to give me negative 26. I'm going to take those factors and fill in that area model. So I'm going to have negative 11x and negative 15x. All right, I can also fill it into my x puzzle, negative 11x and negative 15x. All right, now let's start factoring. Okay, we're going to factor our rows first. So I have 15x squared and a negative x. The only thing I can factor out of that row, that top row, is an x. Then I have negative 15x plus 11. Because I have this negative here, I'm going to pull it out. So I'm going to have a negative number. And with 15 and 11, the only thing I can factor out is a negative 1. Okay? Now let's go to our columns. We have 15x squared and a 15x. So I can factor out 15 because they're both divisible by 15 and an x. Then I have negative 11x and a positive 11. Because of this negative number, I'm going to factor it out. So I have a negative 11. Both 11x and 11 are divisible by 11, so that is my second factored polynomial. Now I can list them. So I'm going to have, I like to list my number with the largest coefficient first. So 15x minus 1. And then x minus 1 is my other factor. All right, those are questions 1 through 3 on your factor quadratic expression practice day 2. Now work on 4, 5, and 6 on your own, and then come back and check the video to see if you have them correct.